Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à la session sur la cybersécurité 2020. Mon nom est Gilbert Fortin, je serai votre hôte pour cette session-ci. La session va être en anglais, the session will be in English. So let me introduce you to Rogan Sabatapi. Rogan is a security threat management architect at IBM. He's been with IBM, or he's got 18 years experience in cybersecurity. He's holding like different position in pre-sales and consultant work in many geographic area around the world. He worked in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in North America. He specialized in complex network design and architecture, data, network, and cloud security, KPI and cryptography, threat management, solution integration, and project implementation. So during the session, don't forget to put on anything on the chat. If you have any question, we'll come back at the end of the session and answer the question. I'll be manning the chat room and looking for your question, and we'll come back at the end. So, Rogan, it's yours.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone. Good morning. Just a few words in French before we switch again to English. So bonjour à tous et à toutes. Je vous remercie d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui le matin. Et on va parler, c'est un topic qui est important, un sujet qui est important pour nous tous. Donc c'est quelque chose qui est à plein cœur et j'espère que je vais pouvoir partager quelques analyses de la cybersécurité en tant que telle actuellement. So thank you again. So let's switch back to English. So what I'd like to do is, I got an agenda that I've worked on. I hope it'll give you a good sense of some of the notion of where the industry, the cybersecurity trend is going. So first off, maybe we take a step back, understand where we are now, where do we stand, and kind of maybe food for thought, a little bit of a process thinking before we kind of look at the next topic, which is around the strategies for threat management. And I'll kind of share with you a little bit of IBM perspective. And at the same time, we'll walk through an analyst. We'll wear the hat of an analyst, so to speak. We'll walk through a typical scenario and how does an analyst on a day-to-day basis deal with cybersecurity threats. And moving next, we'll talk about how IBM can augment the analyst background or analyst work and provide the tools that could help speed up that chain of reaction and response. And finally, we'll talk about some of the next actions and the next step. So let's dive right into some of the, where do you stand topic, the introduction, so to speak, the setting the stage before we look deeper. So we understand. So I changed the slide slightly because, a year ago, we probably talking about the pace of digital transformation. But now we can safely say that most companies and most of you working in organizations have, in a way or shape, digitally transformed. We're in an era where most people work from home. Now some of us are getting back into the office. The way we refactor apps and the IT department is becoming more and more modular, more containerized, and shifted to SaaS a lot. We talk a lot about SaaS application, serverless, the way we deal with workforce management, collaboration suite, and that is moving at an even more rapid pace nowadays. Data is more treated as a shared resource among departments and teams. So nothing new there, but what's kind of more prominent is the increasing use of AI and analytics to kind of find the value, kind of derive the value and the untapped value of the data. And the hybrid cloud has gone a big way. IBM has been one of the key proponent of hybrid cloud. And we're seeing now people working from home, working in the office, infrastructure backend has changed to a point where where you need to maintain a kind of presence on-prem and also in the cloud, which is kind of driving our business in a very open way. So all this is creating a challenge for the cybersecurity. Cyber is even more so because of the companies requires security to deliver trust, privacy, compliancy, and so on. And your reputation is at stake. Your company's reputation is at stake. So security is definitely addressing those transformations and can be a challenge at the same time. And some of the key challenges that we've all so familiar with, and we can state it, is, security leaders and decision makers like yourself are increasingly stressed with having to do too much, too many security tools, too many vendors, too much complexity, too many alerts, and also not enough skill set. So we need to rethink our approach in terms of how do we transform the security component of our business. And what IBM hears a lot from our clients are, we want trusted partners to take off some of the workload. We want to get more from the existing security investments that we have, and not rebuild everything from scratch. We want to find ways to drive the security into the rest of our business. So being at the core of everything that we do, and also leveraging on analytics, AI, in order to help us with the increasing alerts and workload as well. So all these are the key attributes that we hear when we talk to our clients. And a couple of key statements that I think is very relevant to pretty much everybody is, is when we talk about security debt, the cost of past decisions that have been made in a way, it's very difficult to justify a change, right? Especially if you're a growing company, you've invested a lot, and having to rethink. Nobody wants to be in that position, and you are stuck with a lot of legacy applications, legacy solutions, and outdated tools, obsolete tools, etc., etc. You can kind of go on. So it's not unfamiliar territory for a lot of people starting in a new job, or even coming up with things that are already on their plate and having to manage what's left over. And automation, this is an interesting stats. This is from the Ponemon study. They found that 65% of organizations have some kind of security automation and orchestration. But what you do remember as well is so do the bad guys, the bad actors out there. They're also increasingly being leveraging on automation to be kind of try to target those that are leveraging less the automation. So they are looking for those low hanging fruits, trying to find a way to attack them. The only factor that we can say we can control in a way is the human factor, the human resource. But the big question is, how do we enable them? How do we enable our team, our security team? How do we empower them to be more productive? So these are the key questions. So we'll try to give you a sense of, at least from a threat management perspective, how we can assist or help some organizations, giving you some examples. But the question remains: where does a company stand, right? Where are you right now in that journey? When you talk about your SOC maturity, where are you at in that level? And what does a SOC maturity level looks like? Every single organization have their own iteration of where they need to be, where they would like to be, the good, the bad, things they need to fix, etc., etc. So the questions are, sometimes what are the initiatives that you're engaging on, and where do you want to get to? What does good looks like for you? So what IBM has done in a way is working with a lot of customers. We tend to help them with that maturity curve. We kind of try to walk them through that pace. I use a simple analogy. Recently, I had a plumber who came in. He did a mistake of drilling a hole through one of the main structure beam of the house. So I had to call in a building and structural engineer to come in and assess what we need to do, what's the fix. And the engineer would come in and will take notes, write down what are the different measurements for the beam, and then he'll go to the attic. He'll go and check in the attic what are the trusses and how they installed, what's the load on that beam, and then go to the basement to go and check. Again, where's that beam? What could be potentially sitting on? What could it be sitting on? So you look at the whole. If you bring it back to the security world, is when you work with IBM, sometimes you'll hear the IBM bus is coming, is because we have different skill set, and people will look at all the different angle of an organization. What are the challenges, the weaknesses, and we'll look at all these aspects before we actually can see what's relevant and important to you as an organization. So important, and this is one of those maturity curve that we can talk about, is we've heard it. EDR has been prominent in everybody's security book recently, and now we're hearing more and more about XDR and how you can build capabilities around a number of different solutions that can provide more automated response and kind of alleviate some of the workload on your team. Now, as you grow as a company and as you mature in a way, is leveraging on some additional tool set or even framework around, how do we leverage AI in analytics, leveraging on data lake and threat hunting across different databases. How do you do that? The SIM can definitely help in that case. There are tools that can allow you to automate search for different IOCs as well. And then you start building custom use cases that are relevant to the organization, leveraging on UBA, user behavior analytics, risk management, and leveraging on machine learning to help you build those custom use cases. So this is kind of, you can see the maturity as you as organization grow. Is now what we talk about more and more is about having what we define as a complete SOAR. The complete SOAR, it provides organizations with custom built playbooks and coordinate across cross-functional teams like your incident response team, and leveraging on the people and the processes to better response to potentially a breach or an attempted breach within the organization. So you can see how things are getting more and more in a way complex as you climb up that curve or that graph. You go further up, is you need a more specialized team, you need more specialized tool, and obviously that this comes at a cost. And once you tie everything to risk management, it becomes very, very resource intensive. You need to manage all these, understanding the assets within your organizations, your risk exposure, the likelihood of exploit or breach. You have to tie all this together. And this is an example of how organizations, growing through that maturity curve. So if you bring it back to the security world, so we understand in a way the maturity curve and as organizations grow, but what are the different tools that can help you, even just looking at threat management or insider threats or malware? So there are different tool set that are out there. We've talked about the SIM, giving you the eyes, the correlation, the analysis, crunching all these information that it sees and giving you the context that the analyst can then can action upon. And then we have EDR and leveraging on policy-based data vulnerability tools. IAM, zero trust is big in the industry these days, and the whole ethos of the zero trust is very important consideration for any organization. And then you look at the SOAR, it'll help you tie everything together, is in terms of how do you manage the workflow and have custom playbooks. that will help you navigate through those complexities, right? So this is no different from what you're seeing out there in the field. So these are all out there. But how does all this help the analyst? Let's kind of wear the analyst hat and shoes for one moment and try to understand his perspective or her perspective. So on the left, you have your current situation. Is probably most companies are in that state right now, where if there's an incident declared or if there's a potential incident, that the analyst sees an alert coming in, and starts an investigation, and that's going to be one of the many alerts that the analyst will see throughout the day. Starts the investigation, and that person needs to decide: is it prioritized? How relevant is it, and how potentially malicious or dangerous is it on a different scale that you would have defined within your company? So that person will then need to look at a different tool set to investigate, determine the validity, the severity of that potential incident, do the triage, potentially decide if there's a response, perform all the root cause analysis, and maybe you have playbooks already that the analyst will know. Maybe you have defined it within your company, or the analyst will leverage on his or her experience to go through a playbook that the analyst knows about. And then if you have a SOAR tool, the SOAR tool will activate action upon some of the tasks that have been defined. And then it's kind of a closed loop remediation. So you go back, you learn from it, and next time you get to do it better, hopefully. So this is the current reality of what the analyst has to deal with. What ideally everybody wants is a lot of these tasks have been either automated or provided in a way that's simple to execute for the analyst. So we take a lot of the workload and subjectivity of the analysis from the analyst plate, and maybe leverage on tools or AI that can help you go through the investigation, identify the root cause, and maybe do the initial triage on the behalf of the analyst, and give the analyst only the ones that are worth investigating. So a lot of the work can be reduced just by going through that process, and then provide the analyst with maybe one-click automation for response. So that's kind of the ideal state. But can we do that nowadays is the big question with all these different tools. So this is where, in a way, I'll kind of take you to this slide, where we're going to look at a video very shortly that talks about the IBM Cloudback for security. So this is more of a unified platform that leverages on Red Hat OpenShift, and it gives us the ability to investigate, look at a different tool set. You'll see how we can connect to different tools within your organization to do an initial investigation if need be. We are able to, the analyst will be able to kind of, siphon through the different backend tools that you may have. And if you look at tools, just one ESD research recently talked about 60% of companies have like 25 or more unique security tools, and engaging with more than 10 partners or vendors to manage or when it comes to their security requirements. So going through this is where Cloudback for security is able to connect to all these tools and do the initial investigation on behalf of the analyst. So it will help the analyst prioritizing based on the events. We can leverage on threat intelligence feeds. IBM has its own, but we can also ingest from other feeds that you may have, and perform multiple investigations simultaneously, and reduce the number of manual steps that the analyst has to take. So this is where we look at those different modules in a minute. This kind of will make a little bit more sense once we go through an example. But all this is, the idea is, how can we make the life of the analyst a little bit easier? So let me kind of take a minute here just to walk through the video that we're going to see shortly. It's going to walk through an attempt of a compromise and how does an analyst navigate through the IBM Cloudback for security to help him or her identify what exactly is the cause and what actions can be taken. So if you can play the video in the back end, please.
I'm excited today to talk to you about IBM Cloudback for Security, IBM's unified security platform that'll give your team all the visibility into their existing security tools and their log data to help them detect, investigate, and rapidly respond to threats from a single pane of glass. Why is that important? Your company is being attacked every day, and users like Dan here are not helping. They are clicking on word attachments that load malware. In our demonstration today, Dan's Amazon cloud credentials were stolen, and now the attacker is using this account to create Amazon instances of more command and control servers in the cloud. Dan's credentials are also being used from many countries to attack your company. And now to make matters worse, these attackers are trying to download your customer credit card information. How long would it take your company to know all of this is happening, take action, and start to mitigate this threat? Your team has a lot to do for this attack. First off, you need to investigate what happened, what systems were involved, what data was involved, and how did it move through your organization. Once you understand what machines are involved, you might have to remove some compromised machines from the network. You need to investigate that email that Dan clicked on to see, do other users have that email? Is it sitting in their inbox just waiting for them to click on it and relaunch the attack again? You have to open up some ServiceNow tickets to start reloading those infected machines, and then start an investigation. How protected was your data, and was there a data breach? But don't worry, IBM Cloudback Security with its unified integrated platform is here to help you do your job. What we'll do is we'll actually start with a playbook. We call this the steps your team needs to do in a very orchestrated way to start mitigating this threat. With the tools that IBM Cloudback Security has at your fingertips, it's like hitting the easy button to mitigate this threat. So let's get started now, and I'll start stepping you through this demonstration of what Dan did and how your team is going to use Cloudback Security to mitigate it. What you're looking at right now is the landing page for Cloudback Security, where your team would start their day. Across the top are the different modules that are provided by Cloudback Security: Federated Search, Case Management SOAR, User Behavior Analytics, Threat Intelligent Insights, Am I Affected, a Threat Investigator, and a Risk Manager. For our use case today, remember Dan had some malware installed, and they might go to the dashboard to look at source and destination IP addresses coming from their SIM like QRadar. Look at latest threats that are out there. Maybe malware threat is available through X-Force Exchange, or other threat feeds like Alien Vault. I can keep track of the number of cases that are open and what kind of cases we're having, and we see that there are a lot of email malware. Over here, though, on the left is the risky users from User Behavior Analytics, and here is our user Dan, user D, and you see he's in red. By drilling now into the User Behavior Integrated module, I can see that Dan has done some interesting things as of late, and he's been deemed a risky user. If I open up, I can see that he's done some geography changes and accessed some restricted information from a restricted location like that credit card database. The power of all this, though, is a case was automatically created in the integrated SOAR product so that your team now can start mitigating what Dan has done. When this case was created, a couple things happened. The first off is a series of playbooks were actually added, and playbooks are a series of manual and automated steps. Those playbooks did things like, let's automatically start laying out the tasks that your team needs to do in order. Let's gather all of the artifacts we need to start mitigating this threat, like the email information, like the source and destination IP addresses. Everything we need is in your fingertips. And the playbooks actually made this happen. In this case, we have our malware email threat playbook, the steps your team need to do. We did some automation by kicking off ServiceNow to reload Dan's machine. We actually removed all of the common emails from all the systems in the mailboxes in Office 365 in the cloud. And these playbooks are all done by dragging and dropping tasks, manual steps, functions, automated steps using our integrations like the ServiceNow integration, Office 365. You can write your own integration scripts to enhance what you need to do. And then we have decision waypoints all in here. And the cool thing about all this is when the case is deemed email malware, this playbook automatically kicked in, and then you can then start adding by just dragging and dropping things onto the page to see what your next step is. If I'd like to add to this playbook, let's deactivate Dan's ID from Amazon Cloud. I can just drag and drop that onto a page and wire this in just this easily now to enhance and make my playbook even better. So all of these playbooks were automatically started the minute this case was created. Let's now go start looking at actually mitigating this threat. So go into our task, and the first step we need to do is to do an investigation. And this is a powerful part of our Cloudback for security. It now takes that information of that case, those artifacts, email information, user ID, IPs, and then starts analyzing it, looking at all the logs, looking at the nodes, looking at what's happening, and then figure out these are the steps how that threat approached it. Normally, this is a very manual step to gather all this information. It now uses the case information, threat investigator, and now I can start figuring out by the timeline on the right side here that this actually started with an attack from Finland. And then maybe it propagated to an attack from Russia. And I can see now this is actually the second machine attacking us. So this information on the right side is a timeline of what happened and how it happened. We also will automatically build you an attack graph. It started with a spear phishing attack on Dan's machine. It then stole his credentials, laterally moved into the Finland machine, tried to get information from our Amazon cloud, pivoted over to the Russian machine, and then they also went after the Amazon cloud. And all of this is based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and we overlay the MITRE ATT&CK techniques right onto the attack graph. Okay, let's now check off this task and see what is next for our team with the playbook that is running. And the thing we have to do is we have to disconnect compromised systems. We go back to our artifacts here, and all the stuff you need to start mitigating the threat is at your fingertips. Like, for example, here is Dan's machine. And by a push of a button, I can bring in an Ansible workflow script to remove that machine from the network and check off my next task. If I click on the task button now, that's done, and then I can actually, let's say, analyze headers of the email specific. Let's say that was done, and I did my ServiceNow ticket to reload the machine. So again, as I step through this, the playbook keeps running, giving me the next task I need to do. Well, now I need to check the risk of my databases in my company, and that brings us up to Risk Manager. And this will let you know about access control risks or data exfiltration risks or intrusion detection risks. And if you analyze this over time, you can see if you're getting better or if you're getting worse with how you are protecting your data and the tasks you need to do to start protecting your data better. And that's the power of this. So in a real brief demonstration here, we start out by saying user behavior analytics found out Dan did some shaky things. A case was created. We ran an investigation on that case, built out an attack graph of how and what machines were involved and how it moved to the company. We then went back to our case and started mitigating it. We actually opened up a ServiceNow ticket. We investigated some emails. We removed the machines from the network. We didn't have a chance today, but we could have dropped into our federated search to look at more assets and how they play. And then we ended with Risk Manager, where we gave you a report card about how at risk is your data. And all of this together shows you the power of IBM's Cloudback for Security's single unified platform to help you detect, investigate, and rapidly respond to threats more than you've ever done in the past.
Great. So hopefully I'm back sharing my screen. Thanks for this video. So what I'd like to do is quickly recap what we just saw on that quick workflow and understand the different components. So the Cloudback for Security first thing is built on the OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift platform. And there are different modules that are added on top within the Cloudback. And we just saw an example of how we can leverage those different modules. We didn't talk about Data Explorer in this video, but hopefully I'll have a chance to show you how the Data Explorer, which is our federated search across multiple different technologies. So again, got back to that. Case management in terms of the workflow analysis, the SOAR solution, user behavior analytics, we understand that. The threat intelligence insights. So IBM has its own X-Force intelligence that is fed into the Cloudback for security, but you can also bring in your own threat feeds and leverage it on the threat feeds for automated search, or you can also do manual search. Am I infected? It is a new campaign that has been identified, and you can, on a one click, just do a scan across your whole environment to find out if you are potentially vulnerable to these new campaigns. Now, the Cloudback for security can be an on-prem or can be a SaaS offering from IBM as well. So let's very quickly recap some of the key components of what we just saw. So we looked at the threat detection and response. So how the tool is able to provide real-time visibility. So one of the key component, if it wasn't clear in the video, is we still leverage on the backend SIM. The Cloudback for security is able to integrate obviously with the IBM QRadar SIM, but also with Microsoft Sentinel. So we can connect it to our Splunk, or you can build your own connector. There's Oxide as well. So we can connect to multiple SIMs. So it becomes like a one interface, one pane of glass to different SIMs that potentially you may be using in your environment. Most companies tend to have one, but there are some examples of companies leveraging different SIMs for different purposes. So this Cloudback can allow you to connect to all these different SIM platforms and provide you with the real-time visibility depending on the SIM solution you're leveraging on, and actionable insight and automation and orchestration. One of the core component of Cloudback is the IBM Soul. So we looked at an example in the video of how you can build playbooks, or there are some templated playbooks already available, but you can add to that, and it can be automated as well as manual. So all this is part of the platform in terms of the solution. Real-time visibility and correlation, I kind of talked about it. So this snapshot is showing you how QRadar, in this case, is analyzing, filtering, doing the initial triage, and highlighting only the offense, the potential events that the analysts need to spend time on. So QRadar will do that automatically, and so that the analyst doesn't have to spend time and reviewing alerts and spending time going different directions. The threat investigator, this is where we will give you the actual insight in terms of potentially what is the issue that we've identified. A case will automatically be created. If you have a case management software, will automatically integrate and create a case for you, and with all the context that is part of that investigation. So we're able to drill down. The analyst is able to drill down a little bit further and determine if it is indeed a breach, or if you need to go to the next stage of your response with regards to that ticket. So we talked about that. The automation piece, I think we walked about. What I want to stress upon here is the fairly easy way of how you can build a playbook. So you don't need to learn complex language or complex scripts that you will need to implement in your backend. So the IBM Cloudback is able to build the playbook for you with the templates, or you can quickly drag and drop and add the playbook, add to the playbook within your environment. Again, so it depends on the type of incident that has been or offense that we have detected. Some playbooks are automatically activated based on the type of offense or incident that we've seen. So the gist of this slide here is how we can integrate with different tool set. So it becomes like a single pane of glass. So we talked earlier of how it is very difficult for organizations to get rid of solutions that they've spent a lot of money investing and optimizing for their requirements. So so the gist of the Cloudback, the idea behind the Cloudback is to not rip and replace, is to rather leave your data, your key information where it is. We're going to connect to it. We're going to bring the analytics. We're going to bring the data that is sitting in a database, in a different database of a different solution. We're going to bring that into IBM Cloudback for analysis. So that's the key message that I want to make sure you understand. Beside the different modules is all these different connection points. And you can build your own connector as well. So, as part of being part of the Open Cyber Security Alliance, we do promote open security. You can build your own connector if you have a solution that's not there in the IBM data store for apps. You can build one, and we support that. What I want to spend last couple of minutes, the final few minutes, is to kind of review the Data Explorer. The Data Explorer, as I mentioned, is the federated search. It allows you, the analyst, to do quick query across multiple different types of database, whether it's a different SIM, whether it's a different types of solution. We see some on the slide here. So it allows you to do that federated search across the board within seconds. Instead of analysts having to go into each different types of database and doing a search, we do that automatically. And how we do that is leveraging on what's called the stick shifter. So the initial query goes in as a sticks query. It gets translated into the native language query, sent to the different types of solutions that you have within your environment. So in IBM Cloudback is defined as a data source, and we run the query, and the results are sent back from those different databases back into the Cloudback, which then translates that information back into sticks object and presents that to you on your screen. So that's in a nutshell how this Data Explorer federated search works in the backend. So if I may just quickly switch to my screen, just to give you a quick overview. So I have in my lab here is the Data Explorer. This is again the Cloudback for Security dashboard that we've seen earlier. So what you could do is, when you want to look at data sources, this is an example of different types of data sources that are available within the Cloudback. So you can add quite a few data sources as well. So in this example, going back to the search here, you can do your typical search, IP address in this case, and you can run the query. And now what we're seeing here is this simple query has gone to multiple sources: Carbon Black, Guardian, Curator, etc. As you can see here, it's a bit slow on this demo session here, but essentially there are 5 different types of data sources that are available, and you can run the query, and you can turn the analytics on these queries. So this is where now we start crunching this, what we've seen coming back from this query. We'll give you the information that makes sense from an analyst perspective. We can look at do some specific filtering, the most common value. So now we're looking at data being inserted into a database. We got grant connection, database created, etc., etc. So what the analytics is telling us, obviously, is some kind of data was entered in the backend database. And you can drill down very easily things that are abnormal and try to understand from the information that was sent. We can then do some analytics. Right? So what we've done, just to summarize, is we've done a query. It's gone to look at all these different databases within those data sources that we have defined in our Cloudback, and it's brought all this information back into Cloudback, and we can then turn on the analytics to help us shift through all that information and interpret that information back to us into information that we can interpret. So what's the final message here from me is if you want to know more about Cloudback for Security, we do have a link on our website as well. You can go in, try to get a little bit more information and register, obviously, to kind of get a little bit more clarification. And also you can reach out to our partner for for additional insight and expertise to understand the solution. So hopefully my overview of Cloudpack for security and how it helps address the differing tools within an organization and help alleviate some of the workload of the analysts to help speed up the investigation and ultimately the recovery and response of potential breach or attempted breach within the organization. So this is my last slide here. So at this point, I'll turn over for any questions that may be on the chat.
Great. Thank you very much, Rogan. It was very enlightening. Um, we only have a few minutes. Please don't hesitate if you have any question, post them on the chat board or on the question board in the platform. But I have one question for you. Like,
Yep.
how does Cloudpack for Security differentiate itself in the market, and what are its unique value proposition?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. The Cloud Pack for Security is first of all a platform. We've seen different modules being added to the Cloud Pack for Security. We talked about quite a few today during the video, and also I talked through the different federated search. But the Cloud Pack is essentially kind of the aggregation point. That's one of its unique value is we don't need to rip and replace your backend security solutions, and that's the key message. We are able to connect to them, so bring the data into to us. We don't need to go, and we're going to go and fetch it. We're going to go and get it. Essentially, we don't need to move the data to a different database, which is what you see with many solutions out there. Is you need to have that data moved or into a database for that solution to analyze. In our case, we go and fetch whatever is being researched, and then we'll crunch some analytics. So that is a big, powerful value proposition right there. Is that you don't need to rip and replace your backend security solutions, and it's a platform. So you'll see a lot of it's based on open standard, Red Hat OpenShift, and a lot of the technology is open source. So you can build your own connectors. For example, if you have solutions that are not necessarily common, there's a huge community group out there, and we leverage the openness of the platform so that we can build on the integration with all these solutions out there, and it allows you to also integrate with a lot of the IBM security solutions, the SIM, the SOAR. So that is kind of the big component. We have UBA, we have the workflow analysis, the playbook. All this is now available within that single pane of glass, single dashboard, and becomes kind of the main dashboard that an analyst will go to on a day-to-day basis. So that's what we try to do with, and that's hopefully I've given you a good sense of that, is how an analyst life will be made much easier if you have one platform that can query 10 different databases within seconds and give you a better picture of what's happening in your environment. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Rogan. Uh, I don't think we have enough time left for
Yeah.
another question. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for everybody for attending. And please go back to the platform and ask any question, or if you have any comment, or if you want to do any presentation demo, contact us, and we'll be very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.